Alright, this is my interview a teacher blog or vlog. The teacher that I chose to interview was not my cooperating teacher. I haven't really gotten to talk to my sister much about teaching, and being that she is getting her doctorate now in special education, I thought it might be time to ask her some questions on what she thought about teaching and what she did in the classroom. So I asked her 5 questions via email. The first being, what is your philosophy on education? Number 2, what did you do when preparing lesson plans? 3, what things stress you out as a teacher? 4, how did you manage your classroom, such as behavioral management? And 5, what was the most important piece of information you could give to a pre-service teacher? The feedback that she gave me was very good, and it was almost like it was written straight out of a book. The first thing for the philosophy on education, being a special education teacher as she is, her philosophy was that every student can learn, and I know from being in the special education classes a little bit too in my internship, that some teachers, not the special ed teachers, but some teachers in schools can look at students and think that they just don't get it. Why bother? Don't waste time. Go on to the next person, when it's our job as a teacher to look at students and say, how can I get this person to understand what I'm trying to convey right here? How can I get them to as close to the same level as the top students in their class, and help them to understand and to help them feel like that they can do it? Which goes into the second question about preparing lesson plans. And what she said she did when preparing her lesson plans for her special education classes was to make sure that she allowed different types of assessment, whether it be formal, informal assessments, and to set the lesson up so that it helped every student in the class, and to make sure that they learned the same thing that everyone else did, and that they were focusing and harnessing the best information that they could in the best way that they could, whether it be visual aids or having something read to them, just making sure that they understood everything along the lesson. And it's better to do that in bits and pieces than to try to go back at the very end and find out what they didn't get, because it probably was a lot. The things that stress her out as a teacher were pretty much, in a nutshell, just not being able to affect change in the students, whether it be because they have a poor home life and they just weren't getting a good role model at home, or whether it be that they just had no desire to learn or didn't seem like they wanted to, or anything like that. Just not being able to make the students want to learn and want to do new things in class and want to do well in school was her biggest stressor as a teacher. The way that she managed her classroom was pretty much, it was a simple way. It was just give your students the expectations, make sure they're listed in the classroom, and make sure that if they act out of line or act out of the way with those expectations, that you give them a warning. If you do warnings, give them their final warning, but all in all, just make sure that you discipline them in some way for doing the wrong things, and not just disciplining them for bad behavior, but her main thing was making sure that you reward them for good behavior as well, and praise the good behavior that you do see in them if it is a bad student or if they do have trouble in school. And finally, the important information that she gave me as a pre-service teacher was that, no matter how good you think anyone is at teaching or whatever they do, everyone messes up at some point. So not to let these little screw-ups and things stress you out as a teacher, but just to make sure that you focus on teaching to your students and not trying to teach all the information that you have to do all the time and get everything in there and stress over all that stuff, but just make sure your students understand the textbook or the content that they have, and make sure that they can relate it into why it's important in their life and why they need to know this information, because doing that allows them to more effectively learn what you're trying to teach them anyway, and it makes them a better person in the long run and a better citizen, which is what we should all try to strive to help our students become.